Hello, everyone, and welcome to this installment of the Daily Cannon Tactics Board. Stephen Bradley here to bring you the tactical tweaks and quirks that came from Arsenal's 3-0 besmirchment, frankly, against Liverpool in the Premier League last night. This wasn't good, was it? I mean, I don't need to tell you how disappointing a performance this was, and over the next 15-20 minutes, we'll go into exactly how Liverpool were able to exert total dominance over an Arsenal side that was too passive, too willing to give up any sort of momentum or any sort of advantage, and just really unable to get a foothold in the game. And Liverpool were in control from start to finish. And it was a return to form from a side that, before Virgil van Dijk got injured, was the best team in Europe. And not that they're that yet, but this was certainly a better showing than they have in the last 6 weeks. Yet, we've seen this performance from Arsenal before. We saw it in November, and it was the same players then, and it's the same players now. And if we go to, the formation board, it's the same 4-2-3-1 that Arsenal have deployed since Christmas, since before Christmas even, except no Saka, no Smith Rowe, no Xhaka, no David Luiz. And in games like this is where you notice it, because David Luiz has his limitations, Granit Xhaka has his limitations, but their strengths, what they bring to Arsenal, are shown by their absence. And last night's game was a perfect example of this, because at no point in this game at all did Arsenal have a way of passing through Liverpool's press. Like, none. And as a result, Pepe was completely isolated, Lacazette was completely isolated, and Aubameyang was very much isolated. He did manage to create, the two shots that Arsenal had. But as soon as Tierney went off, he also was left bereft of any chance to influence the game. And Martin Odegaard tried his bit, but again, he was getting no ball as well, because the back four, Tierney not to an extent, but he went off injured. And Jesus, fingers crossed he's okay. But Ceballos and Partey, Partey was okay, but this was by far Ceballos' worst game for the club. And when you consider the last 3 or 4 games he's had, that's something to say. But at no stage did Arsenal look like they were willing to engage Liverpool in a fair fight. At no stage did they say, right, okay, we see you coming, we're going to try and fight fire with fire. They were set up for a 0-0. And the only surprise at the end of the first half was that it was still 0-0, because they were overwhelmed. And it's not that it's tricky to explain how, it's just disappointing to explain how, because when Arsenal were in the middle of winning the FA Cup, they were playing 5 at the back, but even then, Tierney was bombing on forward and, from centre back, and Saka was moving on here, and they were trying. They were trying to play. Like, yes, they knew they were overmatched against Manchester City, but even against Chelsea, they were trying to fight fire with fire a bit. They were trying to engage. This was a game that was reminiscent of the Manchester City game a couple of months ago, where City scored within 90 seconds and then basically encamped themselves in Arsenal's half for the rest of the game. For most of the game, this felt very similar, but for different reasons. In the Manchester City game, City just threw numbers at them. City were just, 4, 5 up front, and everyone was in the box, and it was literally like this at times. And you were like, Jesus Christ, can Arsenal get out? It wasn't, Liverpool don't do that, but they do something similar. They don't use numbers, they use intensity. And I'll explain how. So, Liverpool, as we know, have played 4-3-3 ever since Klopp got to Liverpool. And it's been the same 4-3-3 with a DM, 2 full-backs, 2 centre mids, and 3. They say Salah and Mane play right wing, but they don't. left wing. They don't. They play centre. They're strikers basically. They just start out wide. It's like I said, Thierry Henry was a striker. Like he played a lot of left wing, but he cut it. It's, his average position would be there at times. And Mane and Salah are very similar. They start out wide, but they love being in here. And how Liverpool push forward is Phillips and Kabak will drop back, and Fabinho will sit. And instead of just Alexander-Arnold pumping forward and Robertson bombing forward, it's not as, simple as that. Firmino would now drop in. Salah comes narrow, Mane comes narrow, Alexander-Arnold pushes up and Robertson pulls up. And it's almost 3-3-4. Right? Which is fine. And then when Firmino wants to join in the attack, they can make it 3-2-5, no bother. Now, this requires two things. One, because you're not really playing with any wingers, your full-backs are your wingers, these two need to be exceptionally good on the ball. And as we know, Alexander-Arnold and Robertson are two of the best attacking full-backs in the world, if not two of the best, if not the two best. Especially Arnold, Trent at right back. And yes, he's had a bad 6 months and should have been dropped out of the England squad, another story. But they require these players to be so good on the ball because Fabinho is doing nothing here and Thiago is here basically to link up the play and chip in from times, and Milner is here to cover the gaps. The amount of running that is required to make this system work is insane because obviously this is Liverpool's backline. But when this is, that's Van Dijk and that's Joe Gomez. Look how much space these two players have to cover. Like, look at all that. Like, Fabinho will sit and then sometimes there and there. But this is why Liverpool have been able to push their fullbacks forward so often, because when this is Wijnaldum or Henderson, and this is, Milner or Wijnaldum, like, they do so much running to try and cover these gaps that it's incessant. And as a result, Arnold pushes up, Salah doesn't stop running, Mane doesn't stop running, Robertson doesn't stop running. Firmino then starts looking for gaps, going, oh, do I go in here or do I go in here? I'll make sure this passing lane is covered, I'll make sure this passing lane is covered, and it's waves. It's just, they're non-stop running. And to beat this, you have to be brave. You have to be committed, because when you get the ball back, even if it's from a goal kick, what Liverpool do is courageous, frankly. Because, yes, okay, the fullbacks will drop back. But Firmino will come here, and Salah, because when you're having a goal kick, your centre backs will go here, your goalkeeper's there, and to try and make some space, your wing backs will go here, right? What they do, the fullbacks will clamp down on these two, which is why every time Leno pumped the ball along here, Robertson was always on Pepe, and it was such a useless and wasteful piece of possession play because it was just handing back Liverpool the ball. But what Mane and Salah will do is they will bait you. And what they do is they turn and they almost half let you have the pass that you want. They're like, go on. If you can make that ball, fair play, you're now in. Because now Thiago has a choice, now he's 2-on-1. And then if your left winger can get past Arnold, then he's in. And so they want you to try and make this ball here, from Gabriel to Tierney. They want you to try and play that ball. Because if you do, and it works, great, you're in. You now have a 3-on-2, maybe even a 3-on-3. And you can break. But if you don't get it right, the third goal happens. And because Gabriel passes it, it's too far for Cedric, who's on at the time. So Alexander-Arnold pounces, goes to Salah. Salah gets the ball in. Jota's in, and it's 3-0. This is what Liverpool do to you. They give you half chances. They want you to make mistakes. They want you to try and pass out because they want to punish you. They want to get the ball here and here. They want to get as many chances in here as quickly as possible so that they can get it into the front three as quickly as possible. They don't care about winning it here. Doesn't bother them in the slightest if they win it here. They want to win it here. So when they're pressing, again, it'll be 3, Thiago, Milner, Firmino, Alexander there. And now you're like, okay, you've got to be brave now. Ceballos has to come here, he has to get the ball, and he has to find Partey, or he has to find this ball to Aubameyang, or he has to find that ball to Pepe. If he doesn't, he's in trouble. And for the whole of the first half, every time Ceballos got the ball, he took 2 touches, he looked around, and suddenly there's 3 people on him. Liverpool do not wait. They do not give you second chances. If you miscontrol it once, they pounce. If you put the ball slightly too slow or not enough pace on it, or 6 feet to the left, gone. Every time you make a mistake, this Liverpool team gets in position and suddenly they have the numbers again. And it's rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And Arsenal's plan to counter this wasn't to get the ball and pass through and create chances for themselves. I wish it was. I bet Arteta wishes it was as well. But with Ceballos in this form, with David Luiz missing because of a knee injury, and it looks like he's going to be out for a while, and Callum Chambers, look, he's a good right back, but he's not a ball progressing right back at all. With no Saka in the team to come back and beat a play off the press, this team can't play that way. I want them to play that way, but they can't. But what they did was worse. What they did was just basically this. Ceballos went left mid, Partey played a DM, Odegaard at right centre mid, Lacazette went there, and they went, right, now beat us. Bet you can't score. We'll take 0-0, thanks. And it's inviting pressure for no good reason. And I know why teams do it. Look, this is your classic low block. It's nothing fancy. It's very simple. It's this. You remember when Liverpool were playing Manchester United at Anfield a few years ago, and Jose Mourinho played Martial and Rashford as wing backs, in essence a back 6. And also said at the end of the game, basically, I want either Trent or Robertson to beat us. And Robertson beat them because he put in 2 fantastic crosses. Arsenal, in essence, did the same. They went 6-3-1. With Ceballos there, Partey playing as, in essence, a DM. And then Lacazette as, in essence, the person who's supposed to hold up the ball if Arsenal got the ball and were able to get rid of it. But as you can see, once Arsenal did get the ball, even if Firmino is here, for example, what do you do with it? Like, what do you do? There's no outball. You are asking Aubameyang to basically to do this all game long. It's not his game. I know that, you know that. You're asking Pepe, who doesn't track back well at the best of times, to both keep an eye on Mane and play wing back against Robertson. So you want him to be constantly, hounding him and then push forward. Again, not his game. And here's the result. This is where Liverpool had all the ball. And even with their centre-backs, again, very high up the pitch. Very high up the pitch. Robertson, very high up the pitch. Trent, very high up the pitch, although he does receive the ball of Alisson a lot. Thiago, high. Milner, who played left back for half an hour. And as a result, they just have the ball up here and here. But look at Arsenal's heat map. Hello. Like, any time Arsenal got the ball, they couldn't get it out. The occasion one or two occasions they did get it out. They got it to Aubameyang on the left wing, and Tierney had it here occasionally, but nothing. They were doing nothing with it. Whereas Liverpool were able to take their time, move the ball around, and create chances almost at will. And this was the story of the first half. Arsenal were just hemmed in. Yes, Liverpool didn't have a quote-unquote clear chance, but Arsenal were doing nothing, literally nothing. They couldn't keep hold of the ball. They weren't at least trying to be aggressive with the ball. They were just happy with a couple of passes, look up and boof, and then the ball's up here, and then Liverpool recycle and it comes again. And we hoped at the end of the first half that Arteta would launch into this team and go, right, you're not doing enough running. You're not being assertive enough. You're being too passive. You're not getting hold of the ball and knocking it forward and beating a man on the turn and going on. And for 3 minutes, it worked. Arsenal were able to, get the ball into wide areas. They were pressing a little bit back. They were getting Liverpool back a bit. They were starting to, push forward. They were, at least, Liverpool were still making chances, but Arsenal at least were trying to hold their own. They were trying to get them back. And for 5-10 minutes, it was back and forth. Lacazette was starting to get a little bit more of the ball. Partey was starting to knock the ball around wide. Aubameyang was still getting in a little bit. But two things changed the game. One, I think you and me can all say that God hope that Kieran Tierney is fit. It didn't look good. Fingers crossed. But Cedric coming in meant that any chance of overlaps were gone because he's right-footed. And yes, he'll try, but now Liverpool knew that he's not going to cross in on his left foot, right? It also meant that Salah, as we mentioned earlier, now has a better chance of laying this trap and getting Gabriel to misplay the ball, because now Salah doesn't have to worry about Cedric getting the ball on his left foot. Now you have to pass it to his right, which means you have to pass it to this side instead of this side. Which means now Salah only has to cover this side instead of here. But the second thing that changed was basically the difference between wanting to win a game and wanting not to lose a game. And I've said this about Arsenal a dozen times, but never was it more apparent than in the substitutions that were made on the 60th minute. Because on the 58th minute, Mikel Arteta, seeing that Dani Ceballos was having a mare and couldn't keep hold of the ball, decided that I need a bit more stability. We're still 0-0. We still got half a chance. Maybe if we can hold out another 10-15 minutes, I might be able to make an attacking sub, and maybe we go for it for 15 minutes. Maybe we can stay, we can hang in there. Maybe we can just withstand all this pressure and keep Liverpool at bay. Jurgen Klopp saw this and went, really? That's your plan, is it? Your plan is to keep us at bay. Okay. Now what? Keep this at bay. I'm going 4-2-4. Because I don't think you can hold us out. In fact, I think you're so scared of wanting to pass out the ball, I'm going to throw in another pressing attacker, and I'm going to make you make even more mistakes, and I'm going to put you under even more pressure. And now, let's see you defend these four. And sure enough, they couldn't. Because Cedric is trying his best to keep up with Salah. He's trying, and look, Salah's one of the best players in the world, but he's absolutely glued to him. And Firmino is doing his best to draw attention. Jota and Mane are now basically man on man with Holding and Chambers. And Aubameyang has spent 65 minutes chasing Alexander-Arnold's shadow. And Arsenal lose the ball, and it gets to Alexander-Arnold here. And what do you do when the best crosser of the ball since David Beckham gets the ball here? You pray and hope that he mishits it. Holding is here. Chambers is here. He has, I would say, 2 square yards to aim at. Like that by that. Like, about if you can imagine a 27-inch TV, in and around that, that's what all he's got to aim for. To get it over Holding and hit Jota, but not overhit it so that Chambers gets it. That's all he's got to aim for. And he hits him. It's a wonderful cross. But it was coming because at no stage did Arsenal react quick enough to Alexander-Arnold getting the ball out wide. It was almost like, okay, we've got men in the box. If he puts in a ball in there, fair enough. And against 99% of teams, this is a decent strategy. But not against Alexander-Arnold. It's just not. You cannot give this man enough space. And it was almost like seeing him do that meant that Aubameyang was like, look, lads, I'm wrecked. I can't cover him anymore. I need to start going here to try and push him back a bit. But they didn't really have time to do that. Because now, after that goal, Arsenal did try to push out a little bit. And Cedric goes to Alexander-Arnold. But do I need to tell you what's wrong with this picture? Give me Holding. And especially, you can't leave Salah on any centre-back, really. It's why Sergio Ramos took him out of the Champions League final 2 years ago. Any centre-back is going to be in trouble here. And the first chance Salah had to run at him, it's the second chance actually, because he did it 10 minutes beforehand and Gabriel did brilliantly to stop him. But the second time, he gets by him. Gabriel tries to not take him out, but tries to slide in. Half gets the ball. Salah has the strength to muscle through the tackle. He's in on goal. Leno tries to make himself big, but leaves his legs open. Salah sees the middle pocket open. It's 2-0. Game off. And it's just a sign of how far this Arsenal team has to go, to the point that when Liverpool win 3-0 at the Emirates, that you look at the performance that Liverpool put in and you go, yeah, 3-0 was a perfectly good result. It doesn't flatter them. And we saw this before the Chelsea game at Christmas, where Lacazette was out of form, Aubameyang was out of form, Pepe was out of form. This is the first time all season those three have played together, by the way. 52 million, 60 million, 72 million, by the way. First time they played all season together. We know that this front three can't play together. Yet, because of Saka's injury, because of Smith Rowe's injury, because Willian isn't fit yet, we had to play them. And today was just yet another example of how this front three does not work. And can you play Lacazette and Aubameyang in the same team? I said at the end of the last video, at the West Ham game, I didn't think so. This game just further proves that you can't, and you're just going to have to drop one of them. If Saka or Smith Rowe is fit for the next game, you have to drop one of these two, because playing both of them completely nullifies any ability Arsenal have of passing the ball out to the front three, because this player is he needs the ball in front of him too much to join in with passing moves. This man is too engaged in dropping back and linking up the play. And Pepe, God bless him, but Pepe's greatest skill is beating the player on the dribble by himself, which means he always comes back for the ball as well. So he's looking for the ball, he's coming back for the ball, he's coming back for the ball. And as a result, Arsenal don't get forward quickly enough because too many other players are coming back for the ball. They have 4 days to fix this. Am I hopeful? I saw what Slavia Prague did to Leicester and Rangers. I hope I'm wrong. I'll talk to you next time. Cheers.